Good Mommin' Monday.
You're here at the Mistake Mama podcast. I'm Kaylee.
And I'm Mandee.
And it's getting spooky in here. This week, we're going to be talking about something kind of morbid. Death and dying. You can thank Mandee for this topic. She was like, hey, let's talk about this.
Let's talk about death.
I think it's pretty accurate for our second to last spooky episode.
Mm-hmm.
Next week is Halloween. I think in last week's episode we said that. We lied, apparently.
Yeah.
Oops.
We miscalculated on our episode count.
We did. So if you are listening and watching, next week's Halloween.
Yep. For real this time.
Yes, for real this time. But so yeah, we're going to be talking about death and dying today.
Yes.
But first, Wins Fails Books.
Wins Fails Books. When we went to Sun River this past beginning of the week. We left on Sunday. We came back Wednesday morning.
Mm-hmm.
That was my win. It was a lot of fun over there. We were only supposed to stay 2 nights, and then we decided last minute to just stay the third night.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just nice over there. It's so peaceful over there. There's not a lot of noise, not a lot of traffic through the area that we were in, and it's just really nice to get away. And it was a full house, so like we bought food, cooked there and everything. There was a hot tub there. The kids enjoyed just playing around a big house, running around all over the place. But it was just nice to not be in your own home, but still be in like homey vibes, you know?
I think that's why a lot of people like Airbnbs for that same kind of concept.
Yeah. I've never stayed in one. I've been just so freaked out by them.
Same.
But this one is owned by Michael's grandma. She just recently bought it. So I felt comfortable. I knew that she wasn't, going
to be scamming you.
Spying.
Oh yeah, that too.
What's the one movie? It's a scary movie. It's about Airbnbs and like how he puts like cameras in there and like watches them and then like steals like their underwear and stuff and like I think it was on Netflix.
That reminds me of like an old landlord of ours. Did I ever tell you about that?
No.
Okay, I'll throw that in a minute.
Okay.
Whoops, sorry. Anyways, so you had fun.
Anyways, yeah.
That was
I had
awesome.
fun. That was my win.
Very cool. My win for like this past week is that I started doula training. It's something that I've been wanting to do for a really long time. I've wanted to get into birth work just in general for a really long time. My end goal is to be a midwife. I've kind of like thought about like, should I become like a nurse and then eventually do like nurse midwife so that I can have like the nurse part to fall back on. But getting a second bachelor's degree is impossible, especially when having to do clinicals. It would have to be in Portland, and we don't live near Portland.
Yeah.
So that would be like impossible. And so I was like, well, I know that one easy path to kind of get into midwifery is to do it kind of like the, go to the doula path where you are not directly responsible for the patient themselves. And so that's the route that I'm currently going on now. So I've just recently started that. And
nice.
So that's been a lot of fun getting to learn a lot about that. And I'm not going to start working in it quite yet.
Yeah.
But I want to kind of get the training under my belt and have that so that when I'm ready, I can.
Right. Yeah. I have looked into doula training a lot because that's probably the route that I'm going to go. I don't want to be the one that's in charge. But I just haven't gotten around to.
Well, see, I do eventually want to be a midwife.
Yeah. I don't want to be the in charge.
You just want to be the
I want to be the support.
Person. Okay. Cool.
I've realized through getting my nursing license that I much prefer the supportive role versus the leader role.
Okay.
I can be the leader role and I think I'm good at it, but I don't enjoy it. I know not many people do enjoy it, but I really don't enjoy it.
Interesting.
So,
see, I like the aspect of the actual like getting to catch the babies and being in charge of all that and doing all that stuff. So
I like
that
all
sounds
that
fun to me.
But I don't want to be the one that makes the hard calls.
Okay, fair.
And I think for me, weighing pros and cons, the cons outweigh it for me.
That makes sense.
Of all the like big decisions and like hard and fast decisions.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I get that. But yeah, so that's my win.
Nice.
Fails.
Fail.
Why did I say fails weird? Did you hear that?
I did hear that. I was just going to let it go.
It was like a rumble, like back in my sinuses. That was weird. Let me try that again. Fails.
That
was better.
That was better. Fail. Oh, I already told you this, but we had to get a new rug.
Yes.
We came home from said Sun River trip, and there was a dried mess on the carpet, be it puke, poop, pee. We're really not sure. We didn't investigate too closely. We just said, it's time for a new rug. It was past the point of cleanable. I mean, it probably sat there for 3 days.
Because would it have happened like right before you left? Because you took the dogs.
We didn't take the dogs. So Val watched the dogs, and she came and got them later that day.
Oh, so it would have.
So it had to have been the first day.
Gotcha.
Unless it was the cat, but I don't think it was the cat because it was a large spot.
Interesting.
I don't know. So anyway,
but you got a new rug.
New rug.
It's a nice.
So I guess it's kind of a win fail, but the fail was that it was a mess.
Ugh.
And coming home to it.
Yeah.
Not pleasant.
Fair.
Yeah. Anyway, you?
My fail. I have had no motivation to cook dinner like the past couple of days. And,
Been there.
Yeah. And I told you a couple weeks ago, I think, that like Anna's been super helpful with getting the kids food and stuff. And so she's getting real good at it because she's been doing it a lot.
Fair.
And Kish will just be like, can we just do something easy for dinner? And I'm like, yeah.
That sounds fantastic.
Sure. Yep. I don't. And especially because like with Thomas's like weird schedule, sometimes we're doing dinner on our own.
Right.
And it feels weird to like cook a full meal.
For just you and the kids.
Which is weird because like a single mom would be doing that.
Yeah.
But for some reason it's weird to me because it's not something I'm used to.
Well, and I kind of feel like typically the meals that we make, at least it's something that Michael and I both really enjoy. And then we kind of modify it slightly for the kids. And so to then just make that for the kids, I feel like you almost just have to make a modified meal anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's kind of like my fails. I just haven't been wanting to do that. But thankfully Anna's been stepping up. I
go through those lulls all the time.
Yes.
It's like I cook dinner good for like a month. And then the next month I'm like, so you guys are on your own.
Yeah. Thomas wants homemade pizzas tonight. And I make our own pizza dough, which they are so good. But I'm like kind of dreading having to do the dough later.
I don't blame you.
And I'm like, oh, okay.
I think I have some dough in my freezer. I should pull that out.
I mean, it wouldn't help me at all, but.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. Because it wouldn't even be ready until tomorrow.
Yeah. I know. It's good though. But like, it's the kneading part. My arms get so tired. I don't want to.
Yeah, I feel you there.
But it's fine.
You do what you gotta do.
You do what you gotta do. Books.
Still in the second Aberrat book. Close to halfway, I think. This one's a little bit longer than the first one, so.
Gotcha.
Taking me a little bit longer.
Are you enjoying it?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's, this one's more like she's being chased. And so she's like evading him and going to these different islands that are wild. But yeah, it's definitely not like my first choice in book, but I am finding it interesting, and it's kind of a break from the books that I was reading. There's no, like I said, there's no romance to this at all. And typically every book that I've ever read or that I cling to there's some romance part.
Okay.
Whether there's a romantic interest, whether there's a love story, whether there's, a fantasy love story, like there's something, and so this one not having anything, it's kind of giving me a break from it. And I really didn't think I would enjoy it because I feel like I need that, But yeah, it's going well.
Nice.
So what about you?
I'm almost done with Does It Hurt by H.D. Carlton.
How's it going?
I think I've determined I don't really like the enemies to lovers trope.
Oh.
Which there's like one other book that I read that was also enemies to lovers, and I remember not being super in love with the trope. I don't know, it just kind of feels like, okay, well, this person's being an asshole to you.
Right.
So
why are you going for them?
Yeah. And it is. Specifically the book that I'm talking about that I've also read that has this trope is the third book in the Miles High Club series. Remember I said that he was like just an asshole, womanizer, whatever?
Yes.
Yeah. And I never finished that book because I could not get past it. And so this one I like her stuff, and so I'm like really trying to get through it, but man, I don't like this trope. And I think it's just because I'm like, why are you with someone who is a fucking asshole?
Yeah.
Who has actively screwed you over.
Right.
And like, you're just going to fall in love with them now? Like, okay.
I don't like the ones where it's like he's an asshole to her, but I like the ones where like he's a bad guy and like she changes him. Those are the ones I like.
I don't think those
know
are
what you would
enemies
call
to
that.
lovers, though.
Yeah.
Enemies to lovers is like they actively hate each other and then they fall in love.
Yeah.
And it's always like they fall in love over something that like doesn't make sense. Or like he'll be like, I fucking hate this bitch. And then he sees a picture of her in like something skimpy or whatever. And then he's like, I'm so in love. My dick is so hard.
Oh, God.
And then now he's pursuing her. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay.
That's
so
a little far-fetched.
Yeah. And so that, I don't know.
Right.
That specifically was talking about like the Miles High Club. Mm-hmm. This one doesn't have exactly that. But yeah, I don't know. Like it's a good story. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
I just don't think this is my trope.
Yeah. I get that.
I don't know why.
That's okay.
I prefer the like kind of friends to lovers, like that kind of like very slowly, very sweetly kind of changing and evolving, that kind of thing. I prefer that.
Right.
Over the one extreme to the other.
Right.
Like I can understand it going from like love to enemies because that happens.
Right. Fair.
That, you know, that's just it.
That's
and like,
real life.
Whatever. But nobody writes stories like that.
No.
So
true. Interesting.
At least not in like the way that we think about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of like how that's going with me. So I don't know, but like I see people talking about it in like the book talk group that we're in all the time. I mean, like, oh, give me some more enemies to lovers. And now I'm just looking at those like,
I don't want to read those. Yeah.
And there's a bunch in my TBR that are that trope. And so now I'm just like,
do I try them? Do I delete?
Yeah. And like some enemies to lovers are kind of, they're not like straight up enemies. It's just like she's unsure.
Right.
It's like, I don't think that counts.
Those are kind of what I like.
Yeah.
Where it's like she looks at him, she doesn't really like his behavior, how he's acting around other people. But then like they get alone one night and they start talking and she's like, oh, he's really intellectual. He's really smart.
Yeah.
He's really kind.
But it's never outright hate, distaste.
Exactly.
You want bad things to happen to this person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like her other book that I really like, The Haunting Adeline, he stalks her.
Right.
So it's, I think it's like, I don't know exactly how it's classified. Like might be sort of enemies to lovers.
Yeah.
But like she's turned on by him from the get-go.
Right.
Because like she likes fear. Remember I was talking about that?
Right. Yes.
And so like it's never actually enemies.
Right.
Per se.
Because he doesn't hate her. Obviously.
Oh no, he's obsessed with her.
Yeah.
And then she's like, this guy's creepy. Oh my God, get away from me. But like also you watching me through the window is kind of hot.
Yeah.
It gives me very much, what's that? The I get off on you, get in.
Yes,
that gives me that.
Yeah.
Those vibes, like 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't say that would be enemies to lovers.
Yeah, no. Not at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this one's more, I mean, not even more. It is. Enemies to lovers, just straight up. But yeah. Not my favorite, but
interesting.
not the end of the world.
All right.
Anyways, let me really quickly tell you about this old landlord.
Oh, yes.
So we used to live in a really small town called Hot Springs, Montana. I've mentioned this a couple of times. And we had originally moved there and lived with his mom. She doesn't live there anymore. But we moved out and into this like really old kind of, it's not a log cabin, but like all wood.
Okay.
Like
wood paneling?
Everywhere.
Okay.
I might have a couple pictures of it somewhere that I'll show you. But I'm not going to put it on here just because it's such a small town. It could be very quickly found who the owner was, and I just don't want that.
Okay.
Anyways, so it was just like this old house, and it was like it had no heating other than a fireplace.
Okay.
Like it was like old.
Okay.
And the landlord, owner, person, whatever, lived like literally right across from the yard from us. And he would just come into the house. Like when we're not there, there have been instances where we were like best friends with the next door neighbors. Funny enough, we were actually best friends with the next door neighbors before they became our next door neighbors. So,
oh,
like
weird.
We had, small town, remember?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm talking like 500-700 people.
Right.
Small town.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
Funny enough, one of those two neighbors is now engaged to somebody I went to high school with.
Weird.
Which I went to high school in Washington.
Yeah.
It is so bizarre to me because when I saw
What
that
a
they had like known
small
each other,
world.
I was like, Sarah,
That's crazy.
you know Brian? And when I messaged her about it, she was like, you guys know each other? I'm like, yeah, we live together in Hot Springs, like literally next door neighbors.
That's crazy.
It was insane. She was actually the person who took the very first picture of me and Thomas.
Oh.
And so she knows Thomas. And so it was like weird
That's
that we all
so
knew each other.
weird. Yeah,
Such
yeah.
a small world. It's so bizarre.
Weird.
Anyways, so our next door neighbor, he and his girlfriend at the time, not the person that he's with now, had messaged us and was like, hey, your landlord is in your house right now. And I was like, okay. He never reached out to us to say he was going in there. Like, what is going on? Like,
Yeah.
obviously landlords are supposed to do like the whole, they give you notice or
Isn't
whatever.
it like they have to give like 24-hour notice or something?
24-hour notice for things that are not important. And so like the only way you can go in without any notice is like fire, flood,
Oh, okay.
things that like have to be dealt with like
addressed.
right now. I don't
Right.
have time to wait for your consent.
Right.
In which
Nothing like that was going on.
nothing was
Right.
going on. And then so we came home and he was already gone, and I could tell he had gone through our drawers and stuff.
What the hell?
Yeah, it was. And so and I have some of this on like recording because Thomas went and confronted him and was like, you keep coming into our house, like you're going through our shit, that's not okay. Like he started like yelling at Thomas about like the stuff that we owned.
Weird.
Yeah, we weren't married yet, and like he
Yeah.
had a big problem, and he could tell that clearly we were adults doing adult things,
Right.
and he had a big time problem with that because we weren't married.
What does that affect him? What?
This is one of them towns, okay?
That is wow. Okay.
Yeah, and so I do have part of that conversation between him and Thomas on a recording, and he was saying like we didn't have the right to record him, and then like blah 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 blah, and so like we demanded to have like to get immediately out of the contract to get our deposit back and everything, and he's like, we'll have to go do whatever on the deposit. He's like, no,
Yeah.
we're getting all that shit back. You've gone through our stuff, that null and void. You give us our shit back. We're not paying you another
Yeah.
dime. And so he ended up giving us all of our money back, even the first month's rent, and because we threatened to sue him for literally going
Yeah.
through our shit. And then we moved back into his mom's, stayed there for a little bit until we moved to Kalispell.
Jeez. I don't remember you ever telling me that.
It made me so uncomfortable at the time.
So uncomfortable.
And I didn't tell many people. So, hello.
Oh my God.
Here's my
World.
story of my world's worst landlord.
That reminds me of when Michael got his first, I think it was a triplex, because it wasn't a duplex. I think it was 3. He got it. He hadn't even like moved most of his stuff in, but he moved like half of it in. Probably was there like a week or two. And he got home with his dad, or he was going to show his dad the place, and they pulled up, and this like family was coming out of his house, or maybe it was just a husband and a wife. I can't remember. That was a long time ago. And he was like, what are you doing here? And he was like, well, I'm the landlord. I had to come in because of XYZ, blah, 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 blah. And so Michael called the property management who he was renting through and was like, what's going on? And they were kind of like, oh, I don't know. Like that shouldn't be happening. And anyway, the people left and he went in and they had like clearly used the bathroom, like took a dump in the bathroom and like looked through his things.
Oh.
And I think he moved out like the next day.
Yeah, we moved out like literally next day too.
Yeah, because he was like, what the hell?
The fun part about it is when we talked to some people about it, including one of the town cops, they were like, oh yeah, that's just name redacted.
What? So it's a known thing that he's just like...
Yep. Cops were like,
oh my gosh.
They're like, well, you're out of there now, so.
Cool, so you just do that to the next family.
Yep.
Oh man, that's messed up.
Kind of explains why the only places that he rented out were vacant. And were clearly vacant for a while when we found it and moved in.
Wow. That's so messed up.
Yeah, there was a dead hawk in the entryway, so.
What?
Yeah. It had been vacant for a while, and like all these red flags, but I was like 18 and I was just like, we're getting our own place for the first time.
Yeah, of course. That's crazy. Wow.
Lucky me.
Yeah. Lucky you.
We lived there for like all of a week and a half.
Yeah. Man.
It was ridiculous.
Crazy landlords.
There's that.
Fun.
Anyways.
Death
and dying.
What was that? Oh, my phone fell.
Oh. So, death and dying.
Death and dying.
It's such a like an uncomfy topic, but at the same time I feel like it's something that needs to be talked about sometimes. Especially if you are in a committed relationship, and even more so if you have kids.
Yeah, the reason I brought this topic up is because when we were driving to Sun River, we started talking because we've like casually talked about like what we want to happen to each other when we die, but we haven't really like sat down and like gone through the nitty-gritties and like written out, this is exactly, what I would like to happen. And so I randomly brought it up and I was like, hey, we should probably sit down and talk about this sometime, because what if one of us just randomly dies and then we don't know, we don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And it's a hard topic because you don't want to think about yourself dying or your spouse dying or your, whatever dying. But I feel like, oh my God, sorry. I feel like talking about it now while you're alive and well is much easier than when the person's passed and now you're dealing with your grief and trying to figure out, okay, what would they have wanted? What should I do? What's the right thing? Arguing with family members because maybe they have a differing opinion.
Yeah.
And so figuring it out earlier is best.
And then like you can't really have that conversation if they're like actively dying.
Right.
That was actually one of the biggest issues when my grandma was dying, was the fact that she didn't want to do her will because she didn't want to admit that she was dying.
Right.
And then when she died, she didn't have one. And so that turned out great for everybody involved.
Right.
Thankfully, we were able to get a lot of her stuff from her husband, my grandpa, before he kind of turned on everyone.
Right.
But so like we do have pretty much everything of hers, but there were a couple of things that like were supposed to go to certain family members. Like I think her car was supposed to go to my uncle, and then that ended up not happening. But yeah, so wills.
I think it's hard because, like you said, some people don't want to admit that the time has come. I'm now dying. I think it's much, much, much better to get that when you're in a good headspace. Yeah. No illness going on. No like stress factors being pushed on you. It's just like, let's just sit down and have that conversation.
Yeah. And then it's like you were also saying that like if other family members were to contest or whatever, it's like that thought scares me because like let's say Thomas goes before me and God forbid he goes before me, but it's like way before me.
Right.
Then not only am I having to do all of this stuff by myself, but he's got a ton of family members that I feel like would not be happy with some of the decisions I would have to make.
Right. That's, I'm sure on your side. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I honestly probably the same thing would happen the other way around too, is that if I went first, then, and Thomas had to make certain decisions, I'm sure there are people on my side of the family that would be, even if it was something I agreed to, they'd be like, well, Kaylee would never. It's like, but she did. Here's her handwriting.
See, and that's what, like, if they could have, I think some family members, not all, but some, if they could see that you've written out something and that it's in your handwriting or you've notarized it or, something like that, then it's a little bit harder for them to be like, she wouldn't want that, or I don't want that for her, or you know what I mean? But
yeah, I feel like parents especially would be like, well, my kid would never say that.
Right.
When it's like, okay, well,
they did.
You can
have to face that.
You can say left and right that they didn't, but they did. You weren't there, clearly.
Yeah.
And then it's like the other like things, like if you have kids and stuff, you have to be like, okay, well, if you die, what happens?
Right.
And it's like, and it's not only just like will wise,
right?
Like, oh, what are we gonna do with your truck, or what are we gonna do with your Pokemon collection? I don't know.
Right.
Thomas doesn't have one, but I don't know. Michael does.
Okay.
It's like I know Michael does stuff like that, so I threw that in.
Right.
But like also wondering what your partner would want for you.
Right.
Like, would you be okay with, if I'm in a decent age? Because, I mean, I do kind of believe that after a certain age, you don't need to remarry. And you probably shouldn't, but just saying. Sorry, I'm a little salty. Anyways, like, would your partner be okay with you, moving on? Would they have like certain things that, they would realistically want?
Right.
Like if you do move on, get a different bed, or, because certain things like that, I feel like within reason can and should be respected.
Yeah.
Because it's like, even though they're dead.
Right. And they wouldn't know otherwise.
I feel like there's just a level of respect for somebody
Yeah.
who you were life partners with.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know if I would be able to sleep in the same bed with another man, or even beyond my grave know that my husband was sleeping with another woman in my bed.
Yeah.
It just feels
That's
weird
an
to me.
uncomfy thought.
It really is. And it's like, because, I mean, part of it's a little bit of jealousy, but like, I'm dead, so.
Right, yeah.
Or he's dead, nobody's dying, we're fine.
Yeah. Right.
But
nobody's dying.
You know.
And the other thing is, if you have kids, like, a little bit of me would not want somebody else to be called mom.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, if I, knock on wood, we're talking about a lot of death, dying. If I were to, like, let's say die tomorrow, my kids are very, very young. I would want them to have a mother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I want it to be me.
Yeah.
I refuse to die.
I will never die.
I will never die until I'm very, very, very old and gray.
Me and all of my children will die at the exact same moment because nobody else will take on my role.
Yes, exactly.
I refuse.
Yes.
I'm like 117, just
still hanging in there.
So frail. Everybody's being like,
just go.
is she dead yet? Like that one episode of Grey's Anatomy where they're like,
oh, yes. Oh,
well,
she's
is
gone.
It time?
No, she's not.
They're like, okay.
I have a flight to catch.
Yeah. I think one of them actually says that, like, I have a meeting in the morning.
Yeah.
And then she actually dies, and they're like,
wait.
They're like, okay, that hurt a little more than I was expecting.
Yep.
Yeah. I feel like it'd be that kind of situation. I'm like basically a stick.
Yeah.
I'm like falling apart more than what's her face that just died in Congress.
Yes. Yes.
And they're just like, Mom, I am 97. Just go.
Yeah. Yeah. That I just can't imagine somebody else raising my kids.
I can't either.
But those are the kind of topics that I feel like you need to bring up, because what if those happen?
Yeah. Realistically, what would that look like? Mm-hmm. I have told Thomas, I was like, God forbid I go before you when you remarry. Mm-hmm. If she ends up being the type of person who like literally replaces me, like you don't get to have a single picture of your mom, I'm sorry, I am murdering her in her sleep. I will
haunt her.
I will be that poltergeist.
Yes, yes.
That like you wake up and she's like stabbed into the ceiling. Like I will get aggressive.
Right, because you don't want to be forgotten.
No. That's what the fucking bitch did to my grandma.
That's so messed up.
And that was why I got so angry and why everybody's mad at Grandpa about it.
Right.
I mean, he's dead now, but...
Right. A lot of death and dying.
A lot of death and dying. Ugh. And it's like, my grandma's the only relative close to me that like has ever died, so I don't know what that feels like.
Right.
And it's like, I don't know what it's like to have a parent die and like, God forbid something like that happens. Granted, I only have one parent that would really apply to, because if my dad died, I don't know how I'd feel at all.
I'm the same way. I mean,
your actual
biological dad. Yeah.
Yeah, because like I don't talk to my dad.
Right.
And it's like, I feel like if I found out, not only would I probably not find out for a couple of months.
Same.
If at all.
Actually, I might find out right away, because I am friends with his wife on Facebook and everything. So I feel like.
So you might.
If she's not really a big poster, but I feel like she's the type of person that would reach out to me.
See, I don't have any of his family members.
Yeah.
So I feel like, and a lot of them, I don't even know if they know I exist, nor would they know how to contact me anyways.
Right.
Because I don't think half of them even know my name.
Yeah.
Or even my mom's name. So, like, I don't know how any of them would contact us. So I feel like it would be something that, like, I would just randomly Google him. Because I do on occasion.
Right.
Because I check.
Right.
Like, did he die?
Right. Is he alive still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's how I would find out. It's to be like, oh, obituary for
Passed
whatever.
away 6
And I'd be
months
like,
ago.
oh.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't know how I would feel.
To me, he's just kind of another person.
Yeah.
So, like.
I mean, the last time I saw mine was when I was 12.
Okay, so I've seen mine more recently. Because I saw mine when I was 17 and I graduated.
Right.
With my associates.
Yeah.
But he was only here, like, a few days.
Right.
It's like, we had fun. Thomas met him.
Yeah.
But, like, then he was an asshole very shortly after that
Right.
when I got pregnant. And so, like.
I mean, your
grandma's dying? Yes, I am.
Positive.
Trust me.
I wouldn't say that lightly. Yeah, I've thought about, like, him dying before.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that I would feel, like, a whole lot. But then I also thought, I've never really thought about, actually, like, would I go to his funeral if he had one?
I wouldn't go to mine. I mean, my
know.
dad's, you know what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's just my own personal preference,
Probably not. But that also feels like I don't know. I don't feel much connection to him, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Would I want to say, like, my final goodbyes? Like, you weren't ever there, but I wish you well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to think about that.
It's such a weird thing to think about when it's someone that you should, in theory, have a relationship with and you don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. But I know that, like, me and my mom even recently, we were talking about, like, her getting a will because she drives a lot for work. And, you know, we have that app that tells us about accidents and stuff. And I get that a lot for the city that she lives in. And so I'll be, like, checking.
Right, yeah. Who was that?
Like, Mom, are you good?
Yeah.
She's like, I'm good. I'm like, okay, just making sure. There was an accident on a street that you were near, so I'm just checking.
Right.
And so I was like, you know, you should get a will because I would need to be the one to execute that. And I would like to have specific directions on what you want done with certain items or done with yourself. Because I'm the only person who can execute that. I am the only person who is like, I mean, I think that I would automatically be next of kin. 1, because I'm her oldest child, but 2, because I'm the only one who would be sound of mind to be able to do any of that. I mean, is a close enough relative.
Right.
The only other person I think that maybe would be able to take something like that on is, like, I think Uncle Aaron. I don't think your dad would.
Oh.
I just don't think he'd want to.
Yeah. He has a hard time with that kind of stuff.
I remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so, like, I've talked to her a little bit about that, and she's supposed to be getting something for me, just so that I have it. Because we were like, we don't want the same thing to happen that, like, what happened with Grandma, where she didn't have one and nobody really knew what to do and whatever. And it's like, that's a hard conversation.
It is.
To have with somebody, to have with your mom.
To have, yeah.
And be like, hey, Mom, you know, you're almost 50.
We need to talk about death and die. Yeah, but I mean, it's so helpful. It's so helpful. When I was working as a nurse, I was working in mostly nursing homes, and
lots of death there.
Lots of death. And having your stuff together and everything figured out way before you're to that dying process, it helps immensely with the actual death process.
It takes so much stress off of the people around you because then they don't need to be making a decision.
Right.
Like, I know Grey's Anatomy is nowhere near realistic. Like, you don't go into the waiting room to tell someone died.
Right. Yeah.
But someone will die or whatever, and they'll pull them into this room and they'll be like, okay, organ donation.
Right.
Here are these papers, you need to make a decision.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine having to decide while I am, like, actively grieving somebody that I'm close with, especially if it was, like, a parent, to be like, okay, can we take your person's skin?
Yeah. And it's like, when somebody's organs need to be donated, that's a pretty quick thing.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of time to make that decision.
Time
it's
to
not like I
think
can be
about
like,
it. Yeah.
let me decide. I'll get back to you in a couple of weeks when I've chilled out a bit. You don't have that time.
Right. And I never had to witness that side of it because all of my people were very, very old. They were not donating anything.
Yeah. Well, my grandma couldn't have donated anything.
Yeah.
Her body was riddled with cancer.
Right. Yeah. So I never had to see that side of it, but I can only imagine what that's like. You know, your husband who's 28 years old gets in a wreck and, you know, is on life support, and they're like, hey, what do you want to do? And you're like, shit, didn't ever talk to my husband about this. What does he want?
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Also see, like, I'll see TikToks of, like, women who will be like, oh, let me go talk to my husband. And then she walks up to an urn and you're like, oh, God, you're like 26.
Oh, God. Yeah.
And it's like, they've obviously found the humor in it, which I hope that at any age that happens, if he goes before me.
Right.
Which, I mean, statistically speaking,
Men
considering
usually do.
He's a man and he's also older than me.
Right.
Odds are he's going to go before me, hopefully just when I'm at the end of my life and I'm like, we had a good run.
Yeah, exactly. I will be following you here shortly.
Yep. Like, I hope that, like, I'll be sad, but, like, I'll be like, we had a good life.
Right.
But God forbid he goes before me at that point. I hope I can find at least some humor in it.
Mm-hmm. To cope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like, I've found a little bit of humor in, like, my grandma's death of, and I think I made this video once. It's completely private now, so nobody can even look at it. And it was like, talking about at one point in time, Thomas's family accused me of lying that she was dying of cancer. And I picked up her little necklace that has ashes in it. And I was like, why'd you lie to me, Grandma? Everybody is calling me a liar. So clearly we need to have a conversation about it because you're the one who told me this. I got a little morbid about it, but like I try to find the humor in those kinds of things. Some
people cope better with that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm definitely someone who copes better with the humor side of it because if I take it too serious, I'm going to get really upset about it.
Right. It'll eat you alive.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I can understand that.
And it's like, and same with like when I had the miscarriage, that's a death. You
right.
know?
Yeah.
And it was a chemical pregnancy, and like that sense of a term, I was really, really early. But I have this running joke with every time I get pregnant, somebody dies. So I was like, well, I guess it had to be you.
Yes.
Ugh. It's dark humor.
Yeah.
Nobody else gets to say that because that's not funny.
Right.
But it's funny for
right. It's how you're handling it.
It's how
you're
I handle it.
Yeah. Death is a weird thing.
It is.
Some people are very, very okay with it. Some people are very not okay with it. I used to be one of those people that was like, not necessarily like, I don't care if I die, but I never had a huge fear of death.
Oh, it's the opposite.
Never, like, I never did. Had kids, terrified that I will leave my kids.
Yeah.
Like, that is gut-wrenching.
I've always been terrified. I've always been terrified that it'll hurt or that it'll be scary. But now, yes, I'm terrified for what I'm going to miss, what they're going to feel like they're missing. Because I hope to God I am somebody who dies late in the game.
Right. Very old.
Like, everyone who knows me is just like, we had a good run with her. Like, it's about time.
Yeah.
Nobody's really like, they're sad. They're like, oh, she died. That sucks. But nobody feels like they're going to be missing out.
Like they missed out on time. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I hope for me.
Yeah.
Is that I would never want to go at a time where it's like, you're missing everything.
So much time. Yeah, exactly. That I feel the same way. And so that's why death scares me now.
Yeah.
But it never used to. I used to have the mindset of like, well, if it's meant to happen, it's meant to happen. You know, I won't know. I'll be gone, you know, whatever. And now I'm like, leaving my kids behind. What would they think? What would I miss? I would miss watching them grow up, like their kids. Like now I'm like, nope, can't die. Sorry.
Honestly, that's part of the reason why I always wanted to be a young mom is because I never wanted to miss their lives. Because, you know, obviously if I were to die like right after I gave birth or something to them, then I'm going to miss everything, obviously.
Everything.
But like, if I were to die at a reasonable age, the younger I have them,
Right.
the more of their life I'll get to experience.
Right. Exactly.
And that's why I'm like also afraid of just randomly having a kid at like 43 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And then that being the kid that I know
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to miss more of their life
Right.
than I did of any of their
Right.
their older siblings.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, so that freaks me out
Yeah.
a little bit too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. When I remember when I was pregnant with Maverick, that was one of my fears with labor, is like, what if this happens to be the traumatic labor where I die and I miss his whole life?
Yeah.
Like, that is gut wrenching to me. And I just can't even fathom that.
It's
But
like you
that
take
would run
risk.
through my head.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be like, you can't think like that going into labor. You can't think like that going into labor, because that's just going to mess you up.
Yep. And like, I have a super, I don't know if it's irrational or not, I'm not sure, surgeries.
Mm-hmm. Of just like never waking up.
Of never waking up. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I've told myself, like in casual talk, be like, oh, someday I'm going to get a mommy makeover. But then I'm like, but then I have to get knocked out.
Mm-hmm. That doesn't scare me, but I've also had 2 surgeries where I've been knocked out and I've woken. So
See, I never have.
yeah.
I've only ever had like laughing gas.
Yeah.
So
And the first time I had it, I was in that phase in my life where I was like,
I don't care.
if I die, I guess that's what was meant to happen,
Yeah. Oh, once you become a mom though,
When you become a mom, it's a whole other ballgame.
whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
It's so different.
Mm-hmm. That's another thing, though, with death and dying. What if you and your partner, like,
Yes.
horrific car crash?
My kids
and
go to you.
Exactly. Yeah.
You very quickly
who
become
do
a
your
mom of
kids-
too many kids.
Exactly. Who do your kids go to? Like, you have to have those conversations, because if you don't, they could end up in somebody's care that you don't want them in.
Yes. And it's like, that's one that scares me, is it's like, we would want to obviously put that in the will, but I obviously know wills can be contested.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, I would want to make sure that like, it is very clear that like, we want our kids to go to this place.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And it's like, putting specifically in the will, they will not go to Mariah.
Yeah. Let's get specifics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely not happening. Blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And it's like, granted, she would have no right because she's never
not in their
even
lives.
met
Yeah.
Damon or Ellie in person.
Right. Exactly.
So like, she would have nothing. She would have no leg to stand
No,
on.
she could contest it, but they would be like, they don't even know you.
Yeah. She would have
They
nothing.
have other people. Maybe if she was like the only one in the
The
whole
only
family
living
available,
relative.
yeah,
Then
then I
maybe.
could see it, but no.
That would have to be like a very catastrophic.
Literally.
It's like at that point, then maybe I can be like, okay, well,
At least they're going to somebody they know. Well, not even.
at least they're going to a blood relative.
Right.
But like in any other circumstance,
Right.
absolutely
right.
not.
Right. Yeah. The only upside to that, I think, would be that they don't end up in foster care.
Yeah.
That would be the only upside.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no catastrophic events happening.
Preferably not.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of the ones that scares me too, is because like if it were to be both of us to go at the same time, or even very shortly after each other,
Right.
it would be so hard because who would be executing our will and making sure that what we wanted was happening?
Yeah.
That would
I
be
don't know how
scary
that
to me to
works.
think about.
Yeah. I don't know if just because somebody would have to find your will,
Mm-hmm.
and if nobody knows where it's at, then it could take a while before, and then your kids would end up in foster care while that's being figured out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ugh. Or to the next known relative,
Yeah, exactly.
which like, if nobody knew that we wanted our kids to go to you, odds are they wouldn't go to you
No.
because you would be considered a distant relative.
Yeah.
Considering you are my cousin by marriage.
Until I show them all these podcasts and say, see,
It's like, it's here.
we know each other.
This is me saying this right here.
Yeah. This
Which
is
I mean,
video proof.
There's your video proof right,
Right,
there.
yeah.
So at least you'd have this. Be like,
Okay,
oh, hold on.
this
I
is
remember her saying
episode-
this.
What? Write this
It was
down.
during Halloween.
Yeah.
It's the one where we had
Year 1, Halloween.
Year 1, Halloween, no decorations. Kaylee wants her
Death
kids
and
to come
dying.
to me.
At least it'll be aptly labeled.
It will be. You're coming back and referencing this in many years, and you're like, okay, I remember this conversation.
Yeah.
They can't find her will, but it's somewhere in here.
I found it. This is legal.
You come running in with your phone and you're just like, I have a YouTube video. And they're like,
Good Mom and Monday. And they're like, what is this?
like, it's a podcast. Hold on, let me scoot
Hold on,
forward.
I gotta get to the part that's important.
Let's hope none of that actually ends up happening.
No.
But it's a funny thought.
It is. But that is a scary thought. Like, where do your, kids.
Well, shit.
Kids change so much.
Yeah. Well, heck, where are your kids going? We gotta have video proof for you. You don't even know.
I gotta think. I mean, I would be more than happy with them going with you. I have a few people in my life that I would be happy with them going to.
I'm glad that you have a few. I got you.
I have a few that I would be like, my kids will be safe. They will be well taken care of.
Yeah.
Let's just hope nothing like that ever happens. Man. I refuse. Nothing. I refuse it.
Refuse. Nope, not gonna happen. We're not dying. Not anytime soon.
Yeah. What do you want to happen with your body when you die? Or do you know?
See, that's one thing that I kind of keep going back and forth on.
Mm-hmm.
I know I don't want to be embalmed with like the big expensive casket and any of that shit. I don't want that. I want it to be peaceful, natural. I don't know if I want to be cremated. I think that's one that for some reason that weirds me out.
It weirds Michael out too.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It feels too absolute for some reason to me. And like I know that that's like common, especially when it's like, well, the family doesn't have any money and the cremation's like the cheapest.
Right. Right.
But for some reason it weirds me out. I also don't really like fire very much. So
yeah.
It's weird. I don't know. I kind of go back and forth between like a natural burial, where it's just me in cloth in the dirt.
Right.
But like I know that not every state allows that. So that's kind of one thing that like we'll see if that's legal.
Right.
Eventually.
Right.
Or just being like, well, I guess I'll just be cremated because I won't feel it. So it's fine.
Yeah. I am leaning towards cremation.
I think if natural burial isn't a thing, I would just be like, it's fine. I won't feel it. It's fine.
Yep. Won't even know what's happening. Michael wants to be buried.
In like with like
sense.
the whole.
In some sense. I don't want, and this is what I was talking to him about. I have seen like 2 or 3 open caskets, open casket viewings. I can't. Like I told him, I said, if you want to be buried, that is totally fine, but you must be closed. You got to be a closed casket because I was young when I saw it, but I think it was 2 of my grandmas on my mom's side that I saw that were open casket, and it just really freaked me out. I know some people, it's like a way to say goodbye and to see that I don't need to see you like that. You know what I mean? I don't want to remember you like that.
Yeah, have the last time I ever see you.
The last vision of you is in this casket. Yes, a lot of times they look peaceful and whatever. I don't need it.
I think I might feel a little bit different because I kind of feel that way too. But I feel like I might feel different if I had found that person dead. So that I could have that last moment of them in peace versus them.
Yeah, I get
vomit
that.
And poop and pee on all over the floor. Yeah, prefer.
I think it depends on how I would find them because, like I said, when I was working as a nurse, the death process is, I mean, it's not pretty. But when they go and you come in there and you've seen their whole death process, to me, it's very peaceful. Like, I've cleaned the dead bodies,
I don't know why that feels so uncomfortable for me.
Sorry.
You're fine. You're fine. I'm just a little queasy about it.
It's not as bad as you think. It really like makes you feel like you're honoring them and that you're honoring their family because then they can respectfully come in and say their goodbyes and whatever. So I don't know. Finding somebody dead doesn't freak me out unless it was like a murder.
Fair. Yeah.
Because I have found people dead before. It sounds so
I never
weird to
have.
say, but as a nurse, you just do.
I've never Like, I've seen a dead body one time, and it was like my great-great-grandpa when I was like 3. So like I very vaguely remember it.
Right.
My grandma's dad.
Oh, okay.
Leonard. I don't remember his name. I really don't. I called him grandfather is all I know.
Oh, okay.
But I remember he died. And I remember it was open casket and he had a flag on him because he was a vet.
Yeah.
So that's the only like actual dead body I've ever seen in person because I obviously wasn't there when my grandma died.
Right.
So I never actually saw that. I saw like the immediately before.
Right.
Or like at least an hour before. But not, I haven't seen it. So I don't know how I would react if I saw that.
The first time I saw somebody like literally take their last breath, that was emotional. Because it was my first time and I was just like, holy moly, I literally just watched the life leave this person. And it was very much that for me. Like,
so this is the part of the conversation where I get uncomfortable.
that was weird. And then every time after that, I guess I took it as like I was just helping them along, helping them be comfortable, helping them. And then it kind of turned not beautiful. I know some people say like death can be beautiful. But in a sense, I get it. Kind of like when you bring something into this world, you're helping them leave this world in that sense. But it's definitely not a beautiful process leading up to when you are naturally dying. I've never watched anybody like
die horrifically.
Or like a car wreck. I've never, because I didn't work in a hospital, so I didn't see any like traumatic deaths happen. They were all very slow and.
Which that's one of the reasons why I was like leaning away from trying to go to the nurse midwifery is because I'm like, ooh, I don't want to get stuck on trauma during training and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Yeah.
I also know that like there is a much higher chance that I would see a death working the maternity floor at a hospital than I would doing home birth. Yeah.
You still will see it.
Oh, I know that it's still possible that I could see it. I just know that there is a much greater chance that it will be something that like I won't see as much because odds are a transfer will happen before that and then it'll be out of my hands.
Right.
Unless of course they would want me to be there, but that would be something that I could like easily prepare for.
Right.
Versus being like, oh, we're on a rotation, but it's a stillbirth. You got to go in there and maybe like, okay, no way to plan for that.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing I don't think I can ever actually see in person is a stillbirth.
Well, if you're going into midwifery,
I don't know if I can handle that.
you would see that.
I would need to. I mean, as a doula, too,
doula, you would see it probably more.
Yes.
Because you're helping so many
go
through the process.
One of the trainings that I'm taking is the bereavement one. So like I know, and I'm hoping that like the trainings can like kind of help me like to separate myself. Because like I'm really good at separating myself from a traumatic event. Right. At least in that moment where I'm having to be dealing with it. Be like, I have other shit I need to do. I can't be handling this right now. Yep. I'm really good at that. Of just emotionless. I'm just doing what I need to do. Yep. But I know that it would be really hard for me after the fact. And I'd be like, I had to hold a dead baby today. That would be something that would be really hard for me. Yeah. I know and that going into it, that's going to be hard.
I feel like as a midwife, I'm not just saying you, but you in general, would have a hard time because as a midwife, you build that bond with that mom so much more than in a hospital setting. And so you become essentially friends with that mom. And now you have to help that mom deliver her dead baby.
And I've heard of nurses, midwives, doulas, all those people crying with the mom. And it's like, that's me. I'm smiling, but I'm an uncomfortable smiler.
Right. Yeah.
Which I'm going to have to get real under wraps.
Yes, you are.
Because I laugh and I smile when I'm uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah.
Granted, more so just like during conversation. In like an actual event, I'm deadpan.
Yeah, exactly.
But right now, I'm just like trying to get myself through the conversation.
Yeah, that would be a hard one. And I've thought about that too a lot. And that would be a hard one.
Yeah. I think it'd be harder too if it was someone that I was like really close with, especially like that's one thing that every time I'm pregnant, I am terrified for is the God forbid it's one of mine.
Right. Yeah, it's painful.
My heart's like starting to
Yeah.
not get fast but get intense.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, I mean, it's different when, you know, you're helping someone who's elderly, who's lived a long life, pass on, versus brand new, hasn't even had a life yet. You know, that's a completely different ballgame.
It really is.
Yeah.
Makes me sad. But I know that death is obviously like the natural part of life. It's sad when it comes at an unfair time.
Exactly. Well, I think that wraps up death and dying. Hopefully we live long lives with our children.
Sorry.
It's okay. Hopefully we live long lives with our children, grandchildren, and hopefully great-grandchildren.
Yes.
And no traumatic
Nothing
deaths.
traumatic. Nope.
Nope.
We're good. We're happy.
I'm
We're healthy.
allowing that in. Yeah, sorry if this was morbid, but you know,
Morbid for us too.
spooky Halloween times. It was morbid for us, and
I'm uncomfy.
Kaylee's really uncomfortable. I think I handle death pretty well, except when it's my own people.
Fair.
But that's fair. So yeah, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. We don't do this all the time.
Nope. Next week is our Halloween episode.
Yes.
And then after that, we're getting out of the spooky vibes and into the Halloween, Thanksgiving,
Fall.
more fall.
Yeah.
Cozy.
Yeah. So we will see you guys next week for Halloween.
See you next week. Bye. Bye.